Okay, let's try this again. Round two, Renters Radio Boston. We are live again on as many media as are allowing us live right now. We are. I'm here with Rod Weber. We have just gotten back from a protest in Alston, Brighton, as well as some more over the. Where's that coming from? And yeah, we just kind of did the fly, so bear with the technical difficulties. We are just off of a couple big protests in Boston. We want to talk about because ongoing fight here. Um, so let's get started. We just came back from Alston Brighton, which had a counter originally planned as a counter protest uh, against. I call them cocksuckers.
Blue Lives Matter.
Blue shirts matter. There's no such thing as blue lives.
The Brighton Boomers.
The Brighton's whitest. And got back from that, which was a great success because they actually can't protest. The counter protest turned into a real protest.
Yes.
Nope, unfortunately, had to. But we had a great turnout and are going to organize and also check out for more events coming up in our neighborhood. And we did a lot of cool stuff. Like we were calling out the cops' salaries right in front of getting pretty good. We blocked the street. Dave Tree couldn't find us. That was pretty but the more important issue we want to talk about is the Nazis. Frickin' Nazis coming to town on Saturday. The same way we couldn't hold in our issue with the city council budget vote on Friday. We need to talk about these Nazis. We need to talk about what happened. We need to talk about Super Happy Fun America, and we need to talk about Samson Rachiapi. And who better to bring along onto the show for a discussion on this than the one, the only Rod Weber, back from Seattle, from Minneapolis, as well as last weekend in Boston.
DC.
Oh, no, this weekend in Boston.
Oh, sure.
Last weekend in DC.
Yeah.
So let's get started. First, I want to talk about, also the phone lines will be open. What's our number?
872.
A lot of echo here. 872-810-2125. Call in. We do want to start with Samson because there's a really important meeting and vote in Masscan, which is not something I've talked about on Renters Radio, but it's something we've brought up on the Young Jerk past quite a bit. Is our issues with having a white supremacist on their board, as well as Bill Flynn allowing it to. And it's come to a head. After Saturday, it's really come to a head. It's been kind of exposed that this person, you can't just like brush it under the rug that this person is a white supremacist and is working with white supremacists. And so it looks like they are voting him off the Masscan board tomorrow, which I really hope that goes through and happens because, Masscan and Normal used to offer cannabis reform, but we've had to boycott that. Being Samson Copy. I have an issue with the person because they're a Nazi, in my opinion. But there's other, my old co-host Mike has had issues for other reasons, so it kind of all coagulates. Issue with Super Happy Fun America, and Rod has been documenting. Let's just get.
Sure. So I've been following the group currently known protest. 2027. And there are those on the alt-right who would argue that, well, what happened with Super Happy Fun America, or Boston Free Speech as they were called at that
Right.
time, had already scheduled the rally. But I would argue that, well, I interviewed John Medlar, who was the organizer of that rally, and he is a Proud Boy, a card-carrying Proud Boy. And during my interview with him in 2017, we good technically? Okay. Hello, testing. Hello.
Okay, it's better. My
Testing. Hello.
sorry, this is a surprise show.
So-
We're
Sorry for the technical
we
issues.
basically
here.
raided the studio.
True story.
You guys hear me? Thank you for the live feedback. Okay, it's fixed. It's up. Let's keep
And I'm
going.
good?
John
Okay.
Medlar. Back to John Medlar.
So I interviewed John Medlar on a live stream for about 3 hours in 2017, and in the middle of that interview, I did make a point of going through the list of attendees, and so that was Gavin McInnes, who is known for his anti-Semitic rant, 10 Things I Hate About the Jews,
Oh my God.
as well as many other anti-Semitic rants that he's done on his podcast. Of course, previous to that, there was Augustus Invictus, who, he has called for an armed, revolution against the American government, which, to be fair, some lefty groups say things like this. But the problem with Augustus is his Holocaust denial and his recent kidnapping of his family.
Oh yeah.
I mean, stand-up guy, am I right?
Talk about a dark triad.
Also, amid that group in 2017 with John Medlar, with Joe Biggs, also known for his his homophobic rants. And then there's Salvatore Cipolla in the previous event, who also known for his anti-trans homophobic rants. So you've got, this mix of, just kind of bigotry going out there. And it wasn't just... they're complaining that, you can't make it all about Heather Heyer. Oh, fine. Let's not make it about Heather Heyer. Let's just make it about the people that you actually invited to this rally. Now,
Right.
Gavin McInnes very wisely canceled on the show when he saw that things were going downhill. But, of course, 45,000 people came out to it and, showed that it was, all a bunch of pieces of crap. So I don't know how much time we want to spend on this, but in the course of that year, then they turned into Resist Marxism,
Yes.
because they needed to rebrand. They felt like, Boston Free Speech has been uglified. We've been branded as racist. We don't want to be associated with Heather Heyer and her murder. And yeah, I mean, if you're a bigot and fight awful people, there, I get it. But one of the things I forgot there was John Medlar. I was saying, well, it's a free speech thing, so you're a free speech absolutist. Who are the people? Who are some people you might consider? And on his list was Richard Spencer, and who we all know is a white supremacist who was involved in Charlottesville.
We need like a Nazi soundboard.
And
like Nazi alert.
So
This is like 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
2017, I guess is
2017, 3 years ago.
3.5.
I've been at all
depending on how you count it.
The counter protests in Boston. Let's focus on Boston, brevity's sake.
Well, no, but this is Boston. All of this stuff has been Boston that
Yes.
I'm talking about. But it's the point I wanted to say is that I responded to that by saying, well, what about Black Lives Matter? And he said,
Right.
oh, sorry, we'd have to vet them. And then
Free
to
speech.
counter that, I said, well, what about me? And he's like, oh yeah, sure, you seem cool. So I mean,
You're
I
a
don't.
white guy.
If you're only hearing me, I am translucent as a guppy coming out of frog's butt. I am whiter than white, and I'm sure that's what John Medlar liked about it. But so moving ahead, in the preceding rallies as Resist Marxism, you had Jovi Val, known for his swastika medallion that he liked to wear, and he'd pose in front of the Nazi flag doing the Heil Hitler salute. And at one of those, I believe it was in November of 2017, did this anti-trans chant/dance that he was doing at the State House with all the resist Marxism
Wait,
people.
there was a dance.
It's in my
segment.
documentary, The Oppressed Majority, which is about all of these people. Maybe dance is the wrong word, but it was definitely a chant. And
Was it one of
and-
those like terrible like candidate footage
It was-
had a dance like a terrible
boot edge. Well, this was kind of like, how many genders are there? Just two. Just two. It was something.
That's
to
not
that
a
effect.
dance. I'm very fascinated by
No,
their
you're
their
correct.
choreography.
That is why I corrected myself.
I
said the
got
dance
excited.
is
I was
perhaps
like, there was
the-
bad dancing.
No.
involved?
It was a weird chant. Is what it was.
Okay, my feed's cutting here and there. Heads up.
And can everyone out there on the
You're
feed
good,
hear
you're
us?
good. Keep
We're good.
going.
Okay.
I was just-
So these are the kind of people that we're dealing with, and among them at these rallies, which progressed through 2018 and 2019, there was people like Chris Hood, who's a
Ew.
card-carrying neo-Nazi who was at Super Happy Fun America this Saturday. You might know him from his work with the base, and basically just other shitty groups of shitty people. And
Right.
out there was also this guy, I'm spacing on his name. Damn it, the Tony Petro.
Oh, Anthony Petro.
Anthony Petrucci.
Creepy Nazi.
Yes, with the Nazi
Creepy
tattoo. So I'm
Nazi.
trying to get to that. And also
Yes.
among the attendees at all these other previous things was John Camden, who's got the SS, the Wolf's Angel tattoo on his neck. He's also got a Klansman on his chest, according to Greg Hausch, who saw that during our interview after the Providence rally in 2018. That Providence rally, by the way, is where Tiny Toisi started a
That's
riot.
right.
He just started punching random people. And if you didn't see my coverage of Seattle, Tiny Toisi also just showed up. And initially, Joey Gibson was there casing it out. Then Tiny Toisi starts casing it out. You see Zach Staggs, who's the mustache guy, as well as Skinny Jeans Boy, who's Cole Scott. And then later, after all the marching through the streets is gone and everyone's gone away, they single out a local guy who didn't know any better. Everyone should know when you following the Proud Boys. At a certain point, the counter protest kind of turns around together for safety's sake. This particular guy did not know that. He kept filming and following them, and so the Proud Boys 5-on-1 beat the living crap out of him, smashed his cell phone. And then when he got back to the autonomous zone, the Chaz, which it was being called, it's now the CHOP, Greg and I were the first people he found. Me and Greg were the furthest out, so it made sense that he came upon us. As a side note there, let's get back to the Boston stuff.
Okay,
I
so
don't want to get too deep into
so
Seattle.
just to
but-
recap. So this is what you're referring to: Tiny Toisi beating up this random guy with a phone in the CHOP or Chaz at the time. This is this year, like in the past couple weeks. But these people are an organized group. Sometimes they have some infighting, different names. They change their names. They change their identities. They smokescreen what they actually stand for. And we've been following them Rod's been following them for many years. And we've been trying to disrupt their rallies whenever they come to Boston. But in terms of Boston, this weekend they came to town again
Yes.
for a Blue Lives Matter type of shtick.
Yep.
And people came to counter protest, and we went in there with them. And we have a few characters that are based in Boston that are part of Super Happy Fun America. All of them kind of have ties to each other around the country. I would say as alt-right Nazi types, white supremacists, anti-gay, anti-trans, anyone who isn't a white dude, basically.
I'm going to jump in and say ultra-nationalist is the best way to say it.
Ultra-nationalist.
Because you see Tiny Toisi, he is from the Samoan Islands. And,
Right.
of course, many of the people at Super Happy Fun America are dark-skinned or non-white. And the thing that's confusing to the soccer moms of America is when they hear white supremacists and they see the dark or non-white people, they're confused by that. And so the idea behind ultra-nationalism is that people with these white supremacist ideas or ideals, they do work with other nationalists in order to achieve their goals. And so Donald Trump is a good example of a nationalist, an ultra-nationalist.
Right.
And so moving on, I just wanted to
No,
clarify
that's
that.
actually a great way to explain it, because we did see some, people of color on their side, a few, and women, which was confusing. But yes, it's nationalism. However, the Nationalist Social Club was white dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they probably don't let any POC in
Oh,
their little
100%.
club.
I mean, so the first guy that you see in that video that I think a lot of people were sharing was the guy with the Confederate flag shirt, which then had a skull on top of it. And a lot of people didn't understand the skull is for the Nazi 3rd Panzer Division, which is, and it's called a Totenkopf. And a lot of folks say, well, the Totenkopf was used in Germany before that. But this very specific piece of artwork, this very specific skull and crossbones, is the Nazi Germany Totenkopf, and by placing that on the Confederate flag is meant to signal neo-Nazism.
Yeah, so we actually don't have, normally for a show I would have clips to pull up and images to pull up on the screen on the live feed. If you're interested in seeing this stuff as evidence or just following, if you can follow Rod Weber on Twitter at Rod Weber, RODWEBBER.
Can Herb pull those on Twitter?
He could do it live. It's just all right if he feels like it. Maybe you can find
it might
some
be
stuff.
sloppy, but we're pulling it together last minute.
We just showed up from a protest, so we're very, very running this kind of on the fly. But anyway, in Boston, we had this. What they call the rally? The Restore Sanity.
Right, which is stolen from Jon Stewart and
Right.
Stephen Colbert from 10 years ago, 2010. They had that when Jon Stewart was still doing the Daily Show. And the Colbert Report.
And, which is already kind of annoying. And then on top of it, if you look at the reporting of it, mostly Boston area local media will cover it and say that, oh, well, the counter-protesters outnumbered the protesters and the police had to escort them away. And, just like same old stuff.
It's the two sides narrative.
Yeah, the two sides narrative, right?
We can't come to a conclusion because that would offend our sponsors. That would
Right.
affect our bottom line. So we're
Right.
just going to say, I don't know.
And they're not in there
It's like Donald
researching.
Trump saying there's good people on both sides.
Yeah, well, that's not really the case.
Of course.
And they're not researching the history of these people in Boston who's running Super Happy Fun America the way Rod is. They don't know these names the way we know these people. I mean, we walk into that crowd and they know our names. Like, it's almost like they're insulting me, personal insults. My butt was touched, which I made a big deal out of. I wasn't scared, don't worry, but it happened because Nazis are creepy. And you got shoved around too.
Yeah, I mean,
They were up in our faces, but, Karen was very threatening. I was fearing for your life when we saw Karen.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like Standing Rock or Minneapolis. I mean,
Right. You just come off some pretty heavy-duty protests, so this was nothing. So let's talk about Samson and John Hugo.
Okay.
All right, because that was my favorite part. Because we roll in there, and, John Hugo sees me. He's been on the Young Jerks on my old show for a while with Mike Crawford, a while ago, and said he was not a white nationalist or white supremacist, but he's been organizing with Super Happy Fun America for years. And every time I see this guy, I'm like, why did you lie to us? And he runs away all sheepish. It's like all turtle going into his shell. He didn't really talk to me. Samson seemed a little bit nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were flying those Nazis who are actually his friends from years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they've been hanging out with this guy for a while.
There's plenty of photos with all of the white nationalists and Samson and these folks. Mark Sahadi specifically with Chris Hood.
Right, with Chris Hood, who I thought he was kicked out of one group because he used their money to buy weed.
Yeah, that is true. I forget which. He's in so many Nazi groups.
He's like a Worcester-based Nazi.
And keep it clear.
And so
there is a weird hiss.
But they are friends. Like, these people are not. This is not a. What? Oh, okay. This is not a new group of random Nazi infiltrators that showed up yesterday. Is what I'm trying to get at.
Right.
That they never had known. They've known these people for a while.
They're friends with them.
They're their friends. These Nazis who flew the Sonnenrad. Is that what it's called?
Uh-huh.
It's like a Nazi flag looking thing. Pretty obvious.
So to describe it, it's white and black, and it looks kind of like a sun with squiggly arms, kind of.
It's like a swastika sun.
It's like a swastika, with 20 points on it instead of 4.
And you might have to be you may have had to watch the History Channel more than me to actually recognize it. Thankfully, the History Channel educates a lot of people because people are on the internet commenting on our live feed like, is that a Sonnenrad?
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
like
Yes, it
total
was.
absolute Nazi symbol.
Yeah.
I mean, I went up there. We were up there behind this guy. He had an SS tattoo on the back of his elbow,
Yeah.
sizing me up and down, undressing me with his eyes. Creepy. That was Anthony. And they have been known
I like
to
to
hang
call
out.
him Tony.
Tony?
He feels like a Tony to me because he introduced himself as Petro.
Petro.
Yeah.
What is that even? Okay, whatever.
Petrucci.
Oh, Petrucci. Petrucci.
Petrolucci.
Petrucci.
Yeah. Anyhow, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's that. There is Chris Hood, Michael Mora. What's the other one?
It was rumored that Michael Mora might have been the guy all wrapped in black. But
Yeah.
we have not confirmed that. Michael
Okay.
Mora was in jail for a good amount of time for domestic violence, and it is rumored that he had just gotten out. So I don't think that's 100% confirmed.
And there was one other person with they wore a shirt that said Nationalist Social Club,
Yes.
which is like so obvious.
One would think. It's also, they use the North Front or North Face.
North Face logo.
Yeah, which apparently has put forward legal action to try to get them to stop. And
Yeah.
obviously, they're a bunch of Nazis, so they don't care.
Yeah, right. They're just, co-opting. I mean, not that I really care about the North Face, but,
No.
yeah, the Nazis have decided it's white, so
I mean,
it's like New Balance.
Yeah, if I had to pick, I'd say I'll choose North Face over the National Socialist
The
Club.
coats are very comfortable. I don't have one.
I
They're
know, I've
expensive.
never tried. I don't
They're
know.
very
Are
expensive.
you trying to get a sponsorship, too?
Yes,
here?
North Face, sponsor us against the Nazis. Anyway, so these Nazis
North
are,
Face, the group that you wear if you
these-
don't want to be a Nazi.
Yeah, right?
The anti-fascist jacket for you.
Yes. That and Canada Goose, right? If we
Huh?
ever could afford it.
Oh, because of the goose.
Because they're expensive.
Oh, no,
Oh,
the
because
goose.
of the goose. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
see, my subconscious went there.
Looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, must be a duck.
Honks like a goose, walks like
Right.
a goose,
Right,
fights fascism like a goose. Might be Antifa.
exactly.
So we went over there, and also Samson was also looking extremely uncomfortable. This is Samson Racciapi on the board of MassCan.
He
Normal.
pronounces it Rachapi, which I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I've never I
Just
don't
throwing
listen
that
to him
out there.
talk.
Sure.
Racciapi. Okay, I'm Italian and I can't pronounce other Italians' last names.
Honestly, I think your pronunciation makes more sense, but
Racciapi. That's
just
fine.
throwing it out there. I don't
Whatever. He's from Newburyport. Lives in Salisbury.
care. Rachapi.
Racciapi.
I mean, it looks like Racciapi to me. But
yeah. I mean, it's easy for people to Google it.
Yeah.
With the way I said it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
sure.
this guy looks like a knockoff Maynard James Keenan. And like, no, he really does.
I don't even know what that means.
He looks like the lead singer of Tool.
And
Also, he's a Tool.
Uh-huh,
And I can't get that out of my head every time I see
right.
him.
Yeah,
He
no,
literally
yeah.
looks like Maynard James Keenan from Tool, and he is a Tool, and it makes complete sense to me. He's been an organizer with MassCan, is on the board of them now, or has been on the board of them for a while, and is also a white supremacist who hangs out with white supremacists. Always been in denial of that fact, even though, walks like a Nazi, talks like a Nazi, probably hangs out with Nazis, probably a Nazi.
As a documentarian, I have to say I don't think it's proven. I will say it's proven that he hangs out with white supremacists. He's certainly a nationalist. He considers himself a civic nationalist. So I'm just putting.
He also passes out flyers about how to build pipe bombs.
I understand. Yes,
Like,
he does that too. Yes, so he's a dangerous individual. But I want to be clear about these things. Since we're discussing it here.
Okay.
But I understand your position.
Well, he was very uncomfortable with the fact that his friends, now dressed in full-on Nazi garb, because that's what they're comfortable with now, showed up in their full-on Nazi garb.
Yes.
And we
that is true.
We showed up there, and he was very nervous. I mean, his attitude, his posture, it was like, oh shit, what is it? The hens have come to roost. You reap what you sow.
Yeah.
You keep saying Nazi shit and having Nazi rallies. Eventually, people are going to start really straight up looking like Nazis even more so because you've been talking about Nazi shit for the past 4 years and inviting them.
That'll
And
happen.
it's getting more and more radical, and it's getting to be the point where people can no longer ignore your Nazi bullshit, no matter how great of an organizer you are. If you're a great moderator at meetings, they can find another great moderator. We got a caller. Let's take it. Let's take it.
Herb, you taking
Herb,
it?
take the call.
Herb, phone. Herb might be stoned, so hold on.
I'm not.
No, well, we'd like to think that you are.
Hello, who's this?
Hello, hello.
Hey, it's Mike.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
Hey.
Good. I heard I was listening to your show.
Hey, I'm glad you're listening. Are you pretty excited about this development too?
I'm hopeful.
I'm hopeful too.
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about some of it. Mass Can Normal is obviously the Boston Freedom Rally, cannabis,
Right.
and one thing that the community definitely doesn't like is the pro-police stuff, since they've been busted by police for decades.
Right.
So, and also the anti-Black Lives Matter statements in the Globe. I think people are fed up with it. So hopefully we see some change, and not just him, the leadership, because there's been a leadership with Masscan that is gaslighted, attacked, gone after, anyone who's given any feedback on this, who's spoken up about it. So hopefully it extends to the leadership that supported Sampson within Masscan.
That's right. And you've been boycotting the Freedom Rally for like how many years now? Like we've had falling outs with them over this kind of thing.
I think it's been 3 years.
3
and
years,
it's been about
yeah.
their leadership, and this Sampson thing's been a prime example of it.
Yep. And so, it looks like that was one of the things that made him so nervous the other day when he was.
I noticed that. I watched your video, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow, he's running away from you guys. He's
Yeah.
running away from Lauren. He's afraid.
He told us to. Like.
Well, do you remember when I called into the show when you actually had on John Hugo? And it was actually, I think it was shortly after one of those, the big rally.
I think it was before that.
Was it?
Yeah, it was before that.
And it was just so weird to me after a couple of years that I watched the video again. It's like, oh yeah, no, I do remember calling that out. And what do you have any recollections of John Hugo that might have been an indicator of him doing what he's doing now?
No. He was a liar.
He was lying.
He basically lied. I mean, he came on our show and acted like he was cool. Like he was like a cool libertarian, you know what I mean, that we could support. And he basically lied, He even criticized Trump on that episode. And what I found funny was, like, a month or two later, like, I think there was a video that we had posted or a podcast of that, either one, and it went viral. And I was like, who's watching this? And it was all Trump people who were mad he had criticized Trump.
Okay.
It was local Massachusetts Trumpers calling him, a rhino. And I just wonder if that had something to do with it, because it wasn't, as soon as that campaign ended, there he was, the real John Hugo.
Yeah.
Such a tool.
Yeah, he definitely has been pretty sheepish since then. Because every time I see him at these things, I'm like,
Well, that was-
John Hugo.
Well, that was the thing, is
why?"
he just kept ignoring me, and then finally at one point he was taking that big sign of his and he was just hitting me over the head with it. I mean, not that it hurt or
With his tricorner
or
hat
that it
on.
was assault or anything. I mean, I guess technically it's assault, but it was just so childish.
Yeah.
Like, he's got nothing. He won't respond to me, and he just gets out there with his nasally tone, and he says, "It's not really what the narrative that they're giving here. Police are out there murdering people," and it's like, oh, and that's literally all he has to say.
And like the data shows that that's wrong because the police literally have been out there murdering people.
Absolutely.
And how can you be an organizer for cannabis like Sampson? It's not even okay, even if he wasn't a Nazi or supporting Nazi bullshit, you're still organizing a pro-police rally when police have oppressed cannabis users for decades.
And then badmouthing Black Lives Matter.
Exactly.
I mean, come
Right.
on.
Like-
This is not 1975 where you might have been able to get away with that in a normal chapter. The thing on marijuana reform and cannabis reform is that it was mostly a white male thing in the 70s and 80s. And that's changed. It's like you see in that industry and this community, there's a lot more women, a lot of younger people, and
Mhm.
a lot of people of color and Black people, and they're not going to take that. And they're organized.
That's right.
So,
And
I
they're
don't-
fighting for equity.
yeah, exactly. And you have a lot of groups.
Yep.
We have look at Shalene Title. We have a person of color on the Cannabis Control Commission. There's, businesses that are Black owned, so they're not
They're
going
the
to take
best
that.
one.
That's right.
And that's honestly, just for a quick plug, that is something that Mike Crawford talks about constantly on the Young Jerks, is this cannabis issue, and has been on the forefront of cannabis equity and really being serious about actual cannabis reform instead of, being on board with a group that has Nazis in it. And you'll fight with people who piss you off or who are doing the wrong thing, and you'll call them out. So I mean, we've always appreciated that about you, and it's just funny that what we were doing the other day ties into what we were doing for years about MassCan. So that was why I was like, oh, call in. I really hope to see some results tomorrow.
I hope so. I hope I can feel good and go back to MassCan. I'm planning on going to one of their next members meetings to speak out. I haven't been in years because I feel like there's enough people. We had a show tonight. It was all women, former directors, and they're all coming out, and they've had enough. And so
awesome.
I hope I can go back, because they basically, they did a secret probation, suspended, banned. Like, I'm banned from their organization, and I did nothing wrong.
You didn't even do anything.
Wait, what? Hold on. Why are you banned?
I was their number one fundraiser. I was a past president of the organization. I'm a hero. Like, I won their.
Yeah.
The only time they've given out activist awards to the 2 times I won it. You know what I mean? Both times. You know what I mean? So
wait,
why? If they do that to me, they'll do it to everybody, and that's what they've been doing. There's a lot of people who have been silently victimized. I feel like I have post-traumatic stress from the group that I came from.
Right.
So,
and
I'm not the only one.
And they banned you, and you're not even the Nazi.
But why did they ban you? Because you were standing up to Samson?
Yes.
Jesus.
Because I spoke out. I spoke out about their abusive practices.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Now I want Dave Tree in here. Dave Tree better get in here.
Oh yeah, Dave Tree's in the other room.
Dave Tree was ranting about all this stuff earlier, but
yeah,
he's in a recording session in the next room.
Yeah, he's doing some.
I know he's not happy about it, and that's just like another sign. Like, there's so many OGs like him who he's the artist that's probably performed the most at the Freedom Rally. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
the Freedom Rally used to be cool.
Who's given year after year, and that's another problem with MassCan. Too often it's been just a little clique and club where even someone like myself or Dave Tree, who've given all, who are loved by the community that is cannabis, for what we've done. Like, we can't even get love from our own organization that we gave to. You know what I'm saying?
Which you helped build.
And we're white males that are heroes. Like, how the hell can someone who's starting out, or a woman, or trans, or it's just not going to work. So this community needs to come clean with MassCan. It needs to change. The whole attitude needs to change. And the thing is, there are a bunch of women in that organization, and they are. And so we have to support them.
Absolutely. That's why it was something that, we've been quick to. I mean, Rod hasn't followed the MassCan stuff, but with all the footage we've been getting of Samson and these people that we know him to be friends with. We've been documenting, or Rod's been documenting them to be friends with him, with Samson. Like, he hangs out with Nazis. And, it wasn't really the goal to ban Samson from MassCan when people went out there to see him, but if that's what ends up happening. Oh, Dave Tree just showed up. Here we go. If that's what ends up happening, then that's all for the better. That's a win, which is a lot better than Street Pride last year. Like, I would love to see MassCan to be an organization you could join again, because you could do a lot of good. And they've been one of the biggest, cannabis organizations in Boston.
The longest, the strongest. 31 years.
Do you want to play at Freedom Rally again if it's not run by Nazis?
It's never been run by Nazis, because I play it and I don't play for Nazis.
I know, but what about... Okay, never mind. We were just talking about it.
No, I don't play... Well, actually, you know what? That's not true. I play music for everybody, but then I like to either single out the Nazis before or after the show and get to know them.
Get to know them.
And figure out why they've fallen down that path. And then to try to bring them back.
So, okay,
up that path to humanity, where we're all people. Gloriously beautiful people that live in dignity and rock and roll beauty,
He's been recording all day in the other room.
I'm making a song up next door, and so I'm just like trying to.
Nice. So that brings me to another point is I'm wondering if Samson will have a come moment after this.
I try to give it to him. See, I've known Samson because
Samson Richoppy?
Yeah. He was my brother Brian's student. My brother Brian's a political professor of economics.
Really? I didn't know this.
At Suffolk University. And he's like, oh, you got to meet this guy. You got to meet him. It's like pretty interesting. He's one of those libertarian types. And I'm like, oh. What is wrong with those people? Why? And he's young and he wants to be a libertarian. And it's like, all right, well, can't wait to meet him. And I met him at the pot rally a couple times. And then, so I would be like, chit chat. I'm always working those pot rallies. I don't really get to enjoy it like other people get to enjoy it. But I do enjoy working the pot rally. It's like, it's the best. So I get to meet a ton of awesome people.
Yeah, I've always
And I get to meet a ton of people that are like on the margins, And some people, like when I say on the margins, they're completely homeless and they're like falling down from doing like heroin, or they're like slipping into fascism by like following some kind of like really wrong but strong ideology, you know?
Like Samson.
Like Samson did, yeah. And then years later, like my good friend Rod Weber told me like, oh yeah, this guy's like starting up with all these right wing like Nazi types, and I'm like, no way, I know that, I know. And then I like later on that day, this was at LA, and then later on that day I saw him, and I tried to turn him away from that shit, and he's like telling me, not that he really believes in it, but he's just investigating it more than believing in it and whatnot and all that stuff.
He seemed like the reasonable one in the early days.
Right.
He did, and then I saw, but then he did then he got all caught up in those freedom of speech rallies, were just disguised as Nazi white power rallies, because it's nothing to do about freedom of speech, right, Rod? I mean, like their first freedom of speech rally at the Boston Common like had no PA system.
Right.
That's how important the like speaking was.
And they said Richard Speck, Black Lives Matter had to be vetted. So what is that about? Gavin McInnes and his 10 things I hate about the Jews. So I mean, that's
that guy openly started a street gang called the Proud Boys, and they rip off skinhead fashion. And I know all my real skinhead brothers and sisters out there want to pound them in the face with that. So I want you guys all to look forward to that, because it's coming. You know what I mean? It's definitely coming, Proud Boys. You have nothing to be proud about, bitches.
I've got my lifelong dream of punching a Nazi, which I honestly really should have done on Saturday when they...
Honestly, for real, we don't want to be punching anybody. You only punch people when you have to. There's no going back from after punching people. Him in the face a couple times and smashing their ribs in. You can't go back from that. What you can go back from is words. Just things that float in the air.
That's right.
So if they just float in the air by you, they're going to tell you, they're throwing threats at you and all that other stuff. It's like, hey, man, these are just words, and I'm not going to let that get me scared. But at the same time, it's not appropriate.
Right. Well, I think Dave Tree is the voice of reason right now.
He always has.
Well, here's the thing. It's like I traveled around the country in a van with like 4 other guys that were my best friends, and we end up fighting each other a lot ourselves, like physically fighting.
Right.
Fighting is not something. I come from Boston. I grew up I grew up in Westwood, Massachusetts. I grew up fighting like my whole life.
Right.
I was born in the 60s, the 70s. Like adults would attack you for no reason. If you're a wise ass, they would see that as a reason and attack you even more.
So, Mike Crawford, are you still on the line?
Yes, I am.
Hey.
Oh, so Mike
What's
Camp.
up, Trey?
I love you, buddy. I missed you so much. How you been?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Please give my love to your beautiful Carmelita. Me.
I will.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a day like that. Some people in the mass can movement got like it's like you guys are familiar with the Lord of the Rings when the guy whispering in the
Indeed
king's
we
ear.
are, sir.
He's like,
yes.
He's the king of Rohan, and he's got like
Tell us more about the 9 kingdoms.
No, this is the king of Rohan. He's got this guy whispering in his ear. He's like this evil buzz, and it makes him
it's
evil
like
too.
Saruman.
Well, there's people in Masscan that had
Cast
this
the
guy
ring into the
whispering in
fire,
their
sir.
ears, and like telling them things that they could agree to, but in the long run, it's just a tip of the iceberg. It's like,
Right.
Yeah, you agree to that, but do you actually agree to this? Because that's what they're affiliated with.
Right.
That's what they do.
There can be only
they're
one.
doing that.
And the actual people who show up to these rallies, they would have the actual people, and the actual message that was being displayed was not a nice one.
Not a mass can message. It's not a mass.
Yeah.
You know what a mass can message is? It's a message of love, unity and prosperity for all
That's
humanity.
what it should be. That's what it should
All
be.
humanity.
Plant the seed. Plant the seed.
Plant the seed of liberty, and you shall reap what you sow. And what you sow is self-reliance, freedom, and freedom not to get destroyed by the police, not to get destroyed by the banks, not to get destroyed by the real estate people, and not to get destroyed by the corporation scumbag asshole motherfuckers. Because pigs are not people. You got your fascist pigs, you got your corporate pigs. I mean, they walk around like they think they're people, but they're not. They're not people. Okay, they've lost their humanity because of their greed and brutality.
So I want to hear from Mike for a second, though. For people who don't know how you got into cannabis activism, can you give like a little backstory for everyone?
I think it was...
Yeah, I mean, mostly I went to the rally one year, and I was friends with these guys, and they wanted me to book their band because I used to work in restaurants and bars, and I was a salesperson. So I started booking their band, and I went to the meeting, because I wanted to get them on the rally like everyone else.
What band? What band?
I saw Tree, Bone Screw.
Oh, all right,
Bone
cool,
Screw.
yeah, awesome.
You know them, Steve Flynn, right?
Yeah,
So,
great
so
band.
and it's funny because I went to like the rally with Steve Flynn, and I saw Tree that day. I think I'm pretty sure that I know I saw you guys a few times before I met you, but yeah. So I went and because I was interested. Once I went to a meeting, they were like, "Do you want to be a director?" You know what I mean? It was like, and from there, I just started booking events for them. Like I did a lot of fundraising for them, and it's a cause I care about. I hurt my back, and I'm a medical patient. That's really where it started. I'm an old wrestler with a bad back, and I was illegal. So
Yeah.
like everyone else.
Mike Ken, you know what? Tell them the KOP story. Quickly. It's the same thing.
That's a tough
it's like
one.
someone
That's
that's
a tough
not
one.
even. All right,
I met my best friend, KOP, Michael Malta, and
Rest in
he,
peace.
we did a lot of good work together. And he passed away in 2013, and I know that for a fact he would be speaking out on this. He is
Right.
He was a huge advocate, and people love him. Like people still talk about him. People that didn't even know him because they watch his videos. We used to do a lot of work together back in the day. So, during that 10-year run with Masscan, when I was on their board and I booked a lot of their events, he was one of the big speakers. He gave one of the best speeches ever at the rally, and I'm so proud that I fought to get him on that stage that day because some people didn't want him there. And his speech was basically, he brought out his 88-year-old father or something like that. I don't know how old he was at that point, Daddy-O. And he told the story, and he said, when I was younger, my dad caught me smoking weed, and he kicked my ass. And then I had a medical issue, and I started using it for that. And my mom, she died, and she shouldn't have been using this. It's the same issue. And so now I light up weed with my dad, and he enjoys it with me. And do you kids out here want to someday, do your parents come after you and kick your ass for smoking weed? And they're all like, yeah. He's like, do you want to see me smoke weed with my dad right now? And the whole place was like, wah! And this was like back in the day, when there was still a big stigma. Now it would be nothing.
Oh,
but
no.
back then, it was genius. It was freaking
huge.
genius. And that was him. He always found a way to relate the human. Like, I'm more driven and more like get to the point. He's just like, he could really do that human thing.
Michael
And a lot
Malta
of
connected. And the thing is,
Yeah.
he wasn't a big pro weed person. Like, sure, he smoked a little bit when he was a kid, but he wasn't a big pro guy until he learned that he needed to use it and it actually worked for his medical condition.
My takeaway is that Mike is a wrestler. Can
I
you
was
tell
a
us
wrestler.
about that?
Wait.
What?
You were a wrestler?
Me?
Yeah, he was
No.
an amateur wrestler, high school, college, USA wrestling. Yeah, the whole.
Uh-oh.
Are you into pro wrestling at all, though?
No, well, I know, but I have pro wrestling connections. The day I injured my back,
Who doesn't?
the biggest star. Yeah, this is the biggest star from Massachusetts in pro wrestling ever. The biggest star probably in
Cena?
pro wrestling right now.
Bob Backlund?
Hollywood, John Cena.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah, he lives up near
Cena's
you, doesn't
dad.
he?
I know Cena's
My
dad,
college
Mr.
wrestling
Fabulous,
club that day.
right?
What is
Cena's
it?
dad.
My only wrestling connection is, well, I have two. I smoked weed with Bob Backlund in a Red Sox game in the Fenway, and the security came out, and they kicked us out, but they didn't kick Bob out. They just kicked me and my buddy Du out, but then the security guy was actually my neighbor, so he stay. And then my next one was the Iron Sheik used to come to tree shows And the Iron Sheik's actually Italian. He's not Iranian. I'm like, I didn't know Iranians like rock and roll. He's like, I'm Italian, dude. And I'm like, I keep telling you that. I'm like, yeah, but I drink a lot. I forget tons of stuff, man.
Acid schmegma.
Oh my god.
You guys talk about that?
No, we didn't talk about it.
Oh my god. Wait, I want to get back to
Listen,
Samson.
I'm recording a song right now. And it's called
he's recording.
One Last Chance to Dance. It's about how the world's coming to an end. And instead of like pissing your pants and falling into your grave, I want you to dance into your grave and celebrate that last moment of life with positivity and love, and then die. All right, thank you. I love you guys.
Thank
all.
you, Dave
All
Tree.
Thanks,
Play Tree Die.
His song's great. We heard a preview of it. It's not finished yet, but it sounded awesome, by the way. So we'll get back to that. Okay, so Mike, what do you want to see happen tomorrow? Just quickly before you leave, because we are going to be distracted all night.
I would love to see Samson and Bill Flynn resign. I would like to see Masscan not even have to ask them, to ban them, but just to have them resign and
you
have
see
Masscan
that happening?
make amends. No, probably not.
No, they're used to
I expect to see on Masscan's Facebook page at 7 p.m. a lot of pushback from the community. So you never know.
I've been seeing it. I've been seeing people.
It's going to be aired out. So I have a feeling something's going to break. Normal national organizations for the reform of marijuana laws are happy about it, and they have told Masscan about it, and they've also taken them off of their website. They've had sponsors pull out, a number of sponsors.
Right.
So, I mean, like I said, what people in the cannabis community don't like generally are the police, honestly, to this day.
Yeah.
And when you're like pro-police like that, and then you're anti-Black Lives Matter, and you're anti-gay.
And you're like hanging out with Nazis.
Yeah, you're hanging out with Nazis. You're attracting Nazis. You're giving Nazis a platform.
Like the weed community is not into that.
We know that that's on purpose. Like they do that over and over and over again. You can only do that trick so many times and say I didn't know.
Right.
And then the thing is, what we would also really want to see is the Masscan leadership change, because they covered up for them. They acted like the Proud Boys were nothing. They do. We have statements. We have videos of them saying these things. We have them talking to the Globe like that. They covered up for him. They knew what he was. They let him lie. We have statements that he made to the last members meeting like a year ago, where he denied, that these people were controversial. He didn't name all the names that Rod's bringing up that we know.
Right.
He didn't bring up Joey Gibson, all those people.
Why?
I didn't even get to them. I didn't get to Kyle Chapman, any of that.
I know Kyle. That's the one I was thinking of. Kyle Chapman.
Yeah.
But why do you think they were covering for him so much instead of kicking him out before?
Because Masscan has turned into a little political game. It's like these people that have nothing going on in their lives. It's ego, and they want to stay in power. And Samson's a good political soldier. He does work for them. He shuts his mouth. He follows orders. That's what it's like. It's like they've changed the way people vote in this organization to shut down dissent, to shut down the community. They want to keep control. And that's what it is. It's become a party of two people. Basically, think about what they did to me. They shadowed Bancy without having a public meeting, without allowing me to have a defense of myself, without even telling anyone except in secret. And then, a week ago, this guy, Bill Flynn, was on a live stream video on their website, on their Facebook page, bad-mouthing me, saying I was controversial and saying, but we don't talk about him. We just tell everyone. Like, he's basically saying, we can't do this in public. We only do it behind the scenes. So what are they saying? They can't defend their public record over and over again.
Right.
And I think he responded, I want a public debate with you. I want everything in the open.
Right. And meanwhile, you're out there fighting for equity. You're out there fighting for the little guy.
If anyone's got something to say it to me in my face. Don't sit there and behind the scenes whispering stuff.
Yeah. What are they? The government?
Yeah.
So
people have had enough.
I'm sure Samson's going to be kicked out tomorrow, I believe. What about Bill Flynn? His issue is that he allowed Samson to be there, or there's other issues?
Yeah, and then he defended him, and then he went after the people who called Samson out.
Right. So they're little...
they're the ones who... And they've restricted voting. They've mismanaged the organization financially. They've mismanaged the community. They've gaslit the most harmed people in the community. Like they have done everything wrong. Like
I know. I mean,
Like,
I'm
take
aware. I'm
confidence
just
from top to bottom. Bill Flynn.
Yeah.
That's who he is. And
Yep.
all he rules on, it's like Trump. He's a Trumper. He's just ego. It's just about keeping power. That's all it is.
Who would you like to see? Take over MassCan? Not necessarily just
Women.
you.
Women.
Women.
Last time I ran for MassCan, right? I brought in 6 women, and they ran for the board, and they all won. And it was the first time we had 6 women on the board. And basically, Bill Flynn got voted out that year. And that was probably 8-9 years ago. That's why he's hated me ever since. And basically, those 6 women were chased out of the org. They harassed them.
Right.
And I think at this point, women can't get chased out of the org. I think the women there are women within this org right now. They need to step up, and they need to change the culture, and they need to make sure it's more welcoming to everybody.
And you'll have their back.
If they do it right, if they change the culture.
Yeah.
If they take over and they start acting the same way that the previous regime acted,
Right.
You know,
I still have a hard time believing the women will act like Samson, but I mean, there were women on his side on Saturday, so I don't know.
Yeah, there were.
But I mean, I feel like I know a lot of the women
Karen.
you're referring to. I feel like there are some bad eggs in the community, but I think that in general, women will do a better job than both of them.
I think it's time.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see some people of color.
Yeah.
I would love to see a president of color, a black man or a black woman. You know, that would be like the best thing ever.
Exactly.
MassCan has never had a president or a chairman of the board of color, I don't believe.
Right.
So they've had some black board members, but how about a president that's black? You know what I mean? That would be. There's a lot of options, so we'll see what happens.
Especially given the climate.
Yeah, is they can't attract the best people. It's a big risk for people who have blues, and they've instead of rewarding the people that actually give to them, they often gaslight us and drive us away and treat us like crap. So that whole thing needs to change. The psyche, the whole way they operate, and the way that they treat people, especially the people that contribute to them.
Right. And you think, I mean, I think that getting rid of Samson and Bill Flynn, who enables him, let's say, would be a good start to that. I do want to go back to Rod and talk more about our Nazi experiences and protest experiences. But I just want to say, I'm praying for tomorrow to have the right outcome. Even though I'm not really involved in the cannabis community too much anymore, I feel like you're like the guy fighting the lone fight. I've seen it for years. I've seen you fighting against these people for a while. And, hopefully this fight is coming to somewhat of the conclusion with all of this now that he's been super exposed, and, our fights combine to create great justice for cannabis in Massachusetts.
And you can definitely do something too. Like you can, if anyone listening or watching wants to let MassCan know how they feel about Samson and the leadership, Bill Flynn, they can send a message. It's clerk@masscan.org. And MassCan's MassCann, 2 N's, masscan.org.
@masscan.org. And does your opinion count if you aren't officially a member?
I would say if you're a member of the community, it counts.
Okay, because I've been in a lot of Facebook fights lately about it, so I don't know if that counts. But
let them know, and oftentimes too, they have to realize this, and they have to know this, is that many people aren't members because of this.
Yeah, like people like you left. Yeah, same. Like it's like not even interesting. I don't know what it's not something that you want to deal with somebody like Samson, and. Hopefully that the good people can come back and
Mike, I want to chime in before you leave, in case anyone out there has any kind of sway. That I think it's important to remember that it's not just that Samson's hanging out with these white nationalists, these white supremacists, or whatever you want to call them. Is he was also doing these rallies to promote improvised explosive devices, homemade machine guns, in combination with these incitements of violence against the gay community. It seems as though it's just there should be no discussion here. On top of that,
that sounds like an agent provocateur to me.
I mean, on top of that,
I know you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, after the thing with John Medlar, the interview that I did in 2017, they attempted to get me swatted. I mean, there was dozens of people that were posting on 4chan and Stormfront, a white supremacist website, saying that I was going to show up falsely with a bomb or things like that. Dozens of people saying things like this. They were trying to get me killed. These are fucking dangerous people.
Yeah.
And if Masscan doesn't take this into fucking...
People, I want to say something else, too, because they put me on a list. Resist Marxism put me on a list.
Yeah.
Like, I'm supposed to be a target because I'm talking about Samson.
Hmm.
So, and you know what? Like, I got security, and I'm ready for them if they come to me. So that's how serious this is. People need to realize, like, this is serious. These
I'm
people
on their
are
list
dangerous.
now.
So. Mike, the FBI showed up. I mean, like,
yeah, the FBI did call him.
I saw what they did to you. I saw what they did. That's how I know how serious they are.
Yeah.
These people are serious. And so anyone on Masscan that thinks, he's a nice guy, well, he's not. He's not hanging out with nice people, and they are not nice.
Right.
And do you think there's redemption available for him? Do you think that he's gonna I'm wondering, because it's like the shame in his eyes the other day.
Yeah.
The sheepishness. I'm wondering, is he gonna have this like long dark night of the soul tomorrow night and get kicked off Masscan and have a come to Jesus moment? Or is he gonna
I would welcome it if he did, but I don't believe it. Do you, Rod?
I would welcome it, but I believe it would take years for him to achieve redemption. He would have to get into one of these exit fascism kind of groups.
Fascism.
Oh no, that's a real thing. I mean,
deprogramming.
Andy Fash Gordon is pretty big on promoting that kind of thing, and he says if you're really legitimately trying to exit, he'll hook you up with those groups, and they do exist. But if you're just gonna fall back in your old ways, like John Camden. With all the Nazi tattoos, then fuck you. And I mean, it's the same with Tiny Toisi.
I think Samson has a better chance than Tiny Toisi.
Well, I mean,
that guy runs around just beating people up indiscriminately.
Let's not get into a numbers game on who's going to do better, but it takes a willingness, and you really you're going to have to want to fucking do better.
Right.
And they've been so awful. It's going to take years of redemption.
Yeah. But it's just it's the way they were looking at us.
Oh yeah.
On Saturday was so much different than it's been.
You're totally right.
Like it was funny.
I saw it too.
But I almost felt bad for them. Like, oh, finally you're getting it now, buddy. No. I don't really feel that bad for them.
No, don't go that far.
Not after those Nazis got up in my butt, but I feel like they were very they realized what was happening. Like, yeah, pitiful. That's a good word. Pitiful.
Yeah, there you go.
Pitiful. They're scared of the truth, and they realize what everything's actually meant. Like, it's not really just this game anymore on the internet or something.
Because that's one of the things to consider is that potentially Samson's just doing this for notoriety, and that he realized that that it is real.
You want to get famous? There's plenty of other ways, buddy. Anyway,
but I see Herb Signal.
Is this Mike? Is this meeting going to be live tomorrow on Facebook at all, or is it going to be closed?
7 p.m. on their Facebook page, on the Masscan Facebook page.
Okay. Are you banned from there, or can you share it?
I can watch it, but I can't comment.
Yeah,
they banned me from the Facebook page.
Okay, well, I'll share it too.
And I think we're gonna try to stream it on the Young Jerks Facebook page, so people who have been banned, which there are many, can comment.
Yeah, I'm aware there's a lot of banned people that are mostly my friends on Facebook.
And
I've been seeing.
For those not in the loop, that is spelled how? Masscan.
Facebook.com/Masscan, MASSCANN, or the Young Jerks, and Jerks is JURKS.
Okay,
and,
sounds good.
We also did a huge show tonight too with a bunch of former Masscan directors. If you want to hear that as well,
yeah, I'm gonna definitely tune into
them.
that and share it. We actually just got back from a protest in Alston Brighton. I've been out there every day, so I've been able to tune in too much to things. It was just that getting up. Samson is an ongoing vendetta here. So
don't say vendetta.
Vendetta, V for vendetta. I don't know. Ongoing issue. So I did want to follow up on that, but I will definitely be sharing, and if I can tomorrow, there's another protest I need to go to, but if I can tomorrow, I want to watch that live because that'll be kind of a victory moment.
It will be interesting. Thank you for sharing everything you guys do. I'll be watching the rest of your show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for calling in, Mike. It was good to hear from
Mike.
you.
Thanks.
And give my love to Carm, too.
Bye.
Love you. Bye. All right, that was my former co-host, Mike Crawford, from the Young Jerks. Tuned into the Young Jerks. I don't even know what their schedule is anymore. He's doing all kinds of shows. But it was good to have him back, Colin. And it all does relate to this Nazi stuff and Samson, Boston, Super Happy Fun America stuff, which Rod is far better at explaining than me because it's long and complicated. So let's talk about, let's shift from there. Let's talk about, do we want to talk about Boston Nazis or do we want to talk about other Nazis?
Recall, I don't know.
Do you have anything more to say about Boston?
Well, I mean, a Super Happy Fun America, as the name, is clearly designed to obfuscate and confuse the issue. And again, this is why they intermingle with white supremacists, and then they have non-white folks there, clearly dark or black people altogether.
Right.
And this is their plan for confusing every issue under the sun.
Right. It's like, oh, I have a black boyfriend, so I can't be.
Sure, that was one of the confusing ones. With the, the 3%er with Leon Armstrong there.
Yeah.
The white 3%er making out with Leon, black woman with the blue dogs.
Yeah, that was
which
confusing.
I'm all for whatever love they want to express, and but there's some confusing stuff going on. I mean, as far as the messaging. One of the big things that Greg Hausch and I did on that day on Saturday was to go around, whether it was WCVB or local CBS 7 or even the Boston Globe. The Boston Globe was not aware that Chris Hood was a white supremacist, and he was right over there with a Nazi flag. They didn't recognize the Sonnenrad. So I explained it to the guy, and to the credit of the Boston Globe, which I hate to say because they actually... because again, this group published my name as one of the speakers, which got me branded as a Nazi for a day or two.
Right.
I'm no fan of the Boston Globe as a result of that, but I will say to their credit, at least in this situation, they listened to what I had to say, and they did include some of that in their article. But you can see with WCVB or Channel 7 that they just ignored everything. They didn't publish a single Nazi tattoo, the Nazi flags.
Yeah, they weren't showing the details. Yeah, they were showing like Karen. I did see Karen.
Well, exactly. And so Karen, whose actual name is Suzanne,
that's right.
Was one of these people that was a party to one of the scuffles that happened at this thing on Saturday. And I believe it was WCVB started to film her, and they began to platform her misinformation, which we have to remember started as a disinformation,
right.
With the white supremacists. And as a result of that, I have made it a point to just vehemently give pushback, because these mainstream news or corporate news outlets are not giving proper pushback. They're not behaving like journalists. They're simply giving the two sides narrative. Oh, well, like Donald Trump saying
right.
about Charlottesville, oh, well, there's good people on both sides. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear about that. So when they started to interview her, I jumped in and said, well, Chris Hood's a Nazi, and you're standing with Nazis. And you can kind of...
And you can, like, pretty much point out the Nazi tattoos they're wearing and the Nazi flag they're flying. Like, you can't really deny that.
Right, it's very clear. And
is this yours or mine?
So you can see... that's yours.
Okay, cool.
You can see that Channel 5, WCVB, is complicit in promoting their message, since Greg Hausch and I very explicitly explained this to all of the mainstream media outlets that were there.
Yeah.
So by not reporting that, you can see how irresponsible they are as journalists. They're not journalists.
That's lazy.
They're propagandists. They're there in order to make money for their corporate overlord. We're a corporatocracy, a plutocracy, and if you believe that the politicians have your best interests in mind, well, all you have to do is watch our live streams in contrast to what the mainstream media puts out.
And, a lot of times you hear people say this on, like, non-mainstream media, like, oh, the mainstream media isn't getting it right, and they're like, suddenly they're turning the frogs gay or something. Right, but like I was there. I can back up personally being there for many years with Rod and Greg and people, and also viewing their footage on YouTube. If you look up Rod Weber on anything, you can see a lot of documentaries about this stuff, and I was there for a lot of the filming of a lot of this stuff, right? Like, so I can tell you firsthand what was really happening. That what he's saying is far more accurate and far more interesting and informative than anything you're gonna see on like Channel 7.
And I should add on top of that is that now Facebook is they're banning my material.
Yeah.
And it's basically by the admission of these alt-righters, these right-wingers, they go and report my videos, and it doesn't matter that how many followers you have, or whether you've got an asterisk by or I say a blue check mark by your name, or who you are. It's just they report it, and then my live stream gets taken down. My documentary, The Oppressed Majority, which is the full hour plus film about Samson and Brandon Navam and Mark Sahadi and John Hugo and all these people that put on the Straight Pride Parade and all the kind of satellite groups that were a part of that got my entire YouTube channel deleted for 5 months, and it was because of a massive public campaign of tweeting at YouTube. And then YouTube gave my channel back, but now, as opposed to in the past where I might have got millions of views or hundreds of thousands of views, many views prior to this, now my channel has basically been, as the conservatives like to say, shadow banned, where there's very few views and it's difficult to get anything. And now this is happening with Facebook. So across the board, any of the independent media outlets like myself just get shut down. Whether it's Mint Press News or Unicorn Riot or any of these smaller outlets, they're shutting it down. It's a very dangerous precedent. It's everyone's getting zucked, and we need to look out for that because
it's been happening to you a lot too. Like I'm live streaming terribly because you're zucked. At the same protest. He's like, I can only do Periscope. I'm like, fine, I'm going to do my live stream in, portrait mode.
And so I've got no one on Periscope, so...
Yeah,
and
I share the Periscope.
And that's the problem is that, I've built up followings on YouTube and Facebook for over a decade.
Yeah.
And now that's taken away. And so...
And you're not even the one spouting hate speech.
I'm trying to expose it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So it's, just Rod Webber everywhere. All the time. He's going to be out there. I dragged you out today. Want to talk about Austin Brighton a little? I mean, we're going to have to do another show about Minneapolis and Seattle because it's like there's like entire shows worth of content.
Yeah, we can wrap it. I mean, Herb said he just wanted to do it in an hour, so we've already put him over.
Yeah, let's wrap up a little bit for today about what we did today, and then at some point in the future, maybe we can get Greg in and do some post-protest debriefing episodes.
Yeah, I mean, me and Greg could do a whole episode on.
I remember doing a post-protest show with you guys on the Young Jerks, and I don't even have to host. You guys can just go.
Right, I'm just talking about like Seattle alone. We didn't even touch upon that.
Oh, I know, but it's great to do a show with you guys because you can talk forever. Just like,
yes, we can.
Just chug a beer.
No, I mean we didn't even touch upon Minneapolis either.
I know. We
should get Sophia in for that.
We should get Sophia in. I will.
That's what we should do. It should be me, all of us, and Greg and Sophia.
All right, we are talking about behind the scenes show planning episode, surprise episode number 2. We'll figure it out. I'll let you guys know this time. But let's talk about today, Austin Brighton.
Okay.
There was gonna be a protest in Austin Brighton today. I just want to do this briefly. Yeah. Where they were going to have I call it Blue Shirts Matter rally.
The Copsuckers rally.
The Copsuckers rally. I'm sick. We decided we're sick of bootlickers. We've been coming up with other names. Copsuckers rally. We got such a large response to the counter protest event set up on Facebook. There's a new group, AB for Justice. On Twitter, that's AB for Justice, and set up this counter protest, which ended up becoming a regular protest because the original protesters canceled because of such an overwhelming counter protest response. So that was already a victory, but we decided to just go for the victory lap of a nice march to Oak Square and back. Rod was so kind as to let us use the megaphone. None of us are especially experienced organizers in Austin Brighton. We just didn't want a Blue Lives Matter rally up the street, and I'm a protester, not an organizer. But a lot of great people were involved, and we actually did do a pretty good listing of the cops' salaries right in front of the police station, had a nice die-in. We had over 100 people show up, and we'll be continuing to do actions in Allston, Brighton further. I didn't see any sort of Blue Lives people there.
Can I add something?
Sure, go for it.
So, talking about the cop salaries, there was one thing which isn't explicitly about the Brighton cop salaries, but it just so we can get an idea of just what people make. So these are the most fatal injuries per 100,000 workers.
Oh yes, this is a good one.
So the most dangerous job is loggers. Then comes fishers, then pilots and flight engineers. Then
underwater welders?
No, non-mining extraction workers, roofers. Sorry, there's like this scribble of garbage collectors, mining machine operators, farmers/ranchers, electrical workers, construction workers, agricultural workers, taxi drivers, bartenders, landscapers, maintenance workers, groundskeepers, mechanics, and repair managers. And then beneath that is police patrol officers.
So they're not even in the top 10.
Not even. I'm not even sure if they're in the top 20.
They're not. It's not exactly a dangerous job, and but they're making in D14 well over, like, I think the lowest salary mentioned was like above $250,000 a year. And, that might not be the base salary, but that's what the overtime.
So the top one, and I have it here, is Timothy Curvin.
Who is also a Brighton-based.
He's at $355,000. The next one is at $348,000.
And that's Dan Alecki.
And, yes, I believe, yep.
And that's our pepper spray buddy.
Yes, Dan Alecki. And I don't need to list every name there, but then there's 344, 342, 339. Yeah. Goes down. I mean, their top 20 are all well within 300,000 per year.
Yes, and that's
the pepper spray people to start riots, to start cop riots.
That's because they're getting the overtime to deal with it. So, you can we did do some live streaming from there today. It's on Rod's page on Periscope, probably maybe on YouTube. I'm not sure.
It goes to Twitter.
It goes to Twitter. Yeah. Okay, and then also we had some great new organizers for AB for Justice speaking and announcing this stuff. We had a nice die-in. We did take up some streets for a little bit. We took up the streets going down to Oak Square.
They did the 8 minutes and 45 seconds.
8-minute 45-second right in front of the police station. And granted, this was originally a counter protest, not a real protest, so it was like kind of hard to find speakers. At like within a day's notice. But we'll be doing more stuff in Allston Brighton in the future. I'm extremely proud of my community for coming out.
Yeah, but I mean, that said, there was Ernst Jakes who came out, and Liz Betancourt. That was the guy with the dreads.
Ernest. Yes. Yeah, he was great. Oh my God, people did come out from other communities who are more experienced to help, and
then Liz was the other black woman who came out right after him.
Bob Diesel,
and then, of
traffic
course,
control.
There was Sarah, who's the woman in the orange shirt.
Yep.
So I mean, I think there was a lot of good folks who stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, and we really appreciate everybody from other organizations helping this. Like I said, it was originally a counter protest, and a lot of us haven't organized much before, but we do stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, and we do stand in solidarity against the police.
And so, before we close up, though, I just want to give a shout out for Ernest. You can follow him on Twitter at Shin My Make Is Happen, or that's what it is. At Shin My Make Is Happen, or you can follow Liz Betancourt on Instagram. Liz Betancourt, and those were the speakers from.
Awesome. Okay, definitely followed them. Maybe post it in the comments later, but we do have to get going. Yep. And I appreciate everybody for coming out today in Allston Brighton. You made me proud. I feel proud of my community. I'm proud of everybody helping. And thank you, Rod, for the megaphone.
Sure.
We really need it. We're still learning how to use
Hold
it.
on to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to it because we're doing something next week.
Because I got my Trump lawsuit I got to do.
Yeah. He's dealing with the Trump lawsuit right now. We can go into that as well. I mean,
Next time.
Very busy people here.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts. I don't even know what issues to pick every day. Tomorrow, one quick plug, there is a Day of Rage tomorrow, which has an awesome name. Let me just get to the event page. Sorry. Tomorrow, 5 p.m., Day of Rage at the State House, organized by BDS Boston. I will share that to the Renters Radio page so that you can see it. Feel free to come out, and this is about Palestinian solidarity with Palestine and, defend Palestinian land and defund U.S. police. I'm all about both those things. So that's perfect. And on July 4, there is a big event starting in Nubian Square, I believe, which is say her name, Breonna Taylor. I'm going to say this wrong if I don't find it. Sorry. I wasn't prepared. It is in Nubian Square. It's a march and rally at 4 p.m. Say her name, march and rally. Black Lives Matter Boston hosting, super official. Starts in Nubian Square. It's going to be a big deal. Come out to that, too, to support. If you're having any protest FOMO, this will fix you right up. And until next time, I don't know when next time is yet, but this is Renters Radio Boston. I'm Lauren Pespisa. Who are you?
Wow! I'm Dave Tree! I'm here to smoke cannabis and tell you all to come out. That's right, hardcore news. It's the news for you, and it's true. You know.
Oh, yeah, we are
Next
working
time,
on some
Dave Tree's going to do a new show. It's called Hardcore News.
Okay.
But I'm really Rod Weber.
That's actually Rod Weber. He's at Rod Weber. He's everywhere. I don't know. He'll probably be back next time. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we'll have Greg. Maybe we'll have Sophia.
Wow!